gloves didn't fit. Remember these words. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Wearing men's clothing, Joan of Arc.
Article 1. You said that by God's command you have continually worn men's clothes, and that you have also worn your hair short, with nothing to distinguish you from the soldiers with whom you fought.
This French soldier helped lead Charles VII to the throne during the 100 Years' War. However, she was eventually captured by the Burgundians and put on trial by a pro-English ecclesiastical court. She was charged with heresy, and her penchant for wearing male clothing, especially military attire, was considered a prime piece of evidence. While trivial today, cross-dressing was considered a serious offense in 15th century Christian doctrine. Joan later signed an abjuration under threat of execution agreeing to stop, but she continued to wear male clothing, which was considered a relapse into heresy, a much more serious offense. This allowed the court to label her a relapsed heretic, which carried the death penalty, and on May 30th, 1431, she was burned at the stake.
As to this article, the scholars say that you have no comprehension of the authority of the Church, that you have perniciously erred in the faith of God, and that you are a child of superstition, a wanderer from the faith, an invoker of demons, an idolater, and a heretic.
The .32 caliber bullet, Sacco and Vanzetti. On April 15, 1920, a shoe factory in South Braintree, Massachusetts was robbed, resulting in the deaths of guard Alessandro Berardelli and paymaster Frederick Parmenter. Two Italian immigrants and self-proclaimed anarchists were put on trial for the murders, Nicola Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti. One of the key pieces of physical evidence that tied Sacco to the crime was a .32 caliber bullet that had been removed from the body of Berardelli. Some experts claimed that this bullet matched Sacco's .32 caliber pistol. However, this conclusion was controversial, and the trial was rife with anti-Italian sentiment. But this was quite literally a smoking gun, and it helped result in the convictions of both Sacco and Vanzetti. They were both executed on August 23, 1927.
And I won't tell you about Sacco and Vanzetti either.
The two antichrists that got the electric chair in Massachusetts?
Anarchists.
Isn't it Antichrist?
They were two innocent men who got the chair because they were Italian.
The atom bomb sketch, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg.
Julius and Ethel Rosenberg went to the electric chair for stealing the secret of the atom bomb for the Soviet Union. The star witness for the prosecution was David Greenglass, who happened to be Ethel Rosenberg's brother.
Basically a real-life version of the Americans, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were American citizens who were convicted of spying for the Soviet Union during the Cold War. In the late 1940s, the FBI began cracking down on Soviet spy rings, leading them to David Greenglass, his sister Ethel, and Ethel's husband Julius. At trial, Greenglass named Julius as his recruiter, and he produced a hand-drawn sketch of an implosion-type atomic bomb. Greenglass said that he had drawn this sketch at Rosenberg's request, and prosecutors successfully argued that Rosenberg then passed the sketch to his Soviet counterparts. While the actual value of the drawing is debated among historians, it was enough to convict the Rosenbergs, and they were both executed in 1953.
We had a job to do. We had a job to do.
A slew of forensic evidence. Sam Shepard.
In the retrial of convicted killer Sam Shepard, the discoveries of forensic expert Leland Kirk were finally going to be heard.
This American doctor was convicted of murdering his wife in 1954 and sentenced to life in prison. Fast forward to October 1966, when Shepard entered a famous retrial. This time, he was defended by the extremely popular and extremely capable F. Lee Bailey. He gave a masterclass in defense strategy, showing that the blood spatter suggested a left-handed killer when Shepard was right-handed. He also got coroner Samuel Gerber to admit that a murder weapon had never been found. Furthermore, forensic analysis also suggested that the killer had been heavily bloodied, but Shepard had almost no blood on him when police arrived. He successfully introduced enough reasonable doubt through forensic analysis to earn Shepard an acquittal. His story would later influence The Fugitive.
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
Surveillance and video footage. Darrell Brooks Jr.
Absolute chaos and horror in the Midwest tonight after more than a dozen people are hurt at a Christmas parade.
Wisconsin authorities say there are also fatalities after a driver sped into a procession, plowing into a crowd of onlookers.
It's pretty hard to defend yourself when there's explicit video footage showing you committing a crime. On November 21, 2021, Darrell Brooks Jr. drove an SUV through a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, killing 6 people and injuring dozens dozens more. Despite the fact that he obviously did it, Brooks entered a plea of not guilty, resulting in a surreal trial. Numerous eyewitnesses, including law enforcement officers, positively identified Brooks as the driver. But worst of all, multiple clear videos showed Brooks driving the SUV directly into the parade. Meanwhile, Brooks represented himself at the trial, often yelling, speaking in pseudo-legal gibberish, and engaging in constant arguments with the judge. His decorum, combined with the inarguable evidence, resulted in conviction and 6 life sentences.
Criminal trespass to dwelling from 2006.
Right, I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared.
No DNA on the knife. Amanda Knox.
The knife, I could not explain. There was no reason for my DNA to have been on a handle and Meredith's DNA to have been on the blade. It was impossible.
Amanda Knox, once dubbed Foxy Knoxy by the media, spent nearly 4 years in an Italian prison for the 2007 murder of her roommate, Meredith Kircher. But in a plot twist that shocked, well, no one, Knox was eventually exonerated thanks to a key piece of DNA evidence that didn't hold up under scrutiny. The so-called smoking gun was a kitchen knife found in the apartment of Knox's then-boyfriend. Prosecutors claimed it had Knox's DNA on the handle and Kircher's on the blade, helping send her to prison. But forensic experts later revealed that Kircher's DNA was inconclusive, and it was deemed unreliable. So, with no physical evidence tying Knox to the scene, the case fell apart, and she was acquitted and freed.
Amanda Knox's hand was said to have been on that knife. It was said to have murdered the victim in this case. No DNA. What?
This is Italy, Shepard. It's a little different than we're used to.
Photographs. Jodi Arias.
The expert said it was taken upside down, so the camera's going to be upside down, which makes sense because that's how it could be accidentally triggered. By just moving the camera, it'll take a picture here.
In 2013, Jodi Arias went on trial for the murder of her boyfriend, Travis Alexander. Arias was claiming self-defense, but captured on a digital camera that was found in the washing machine, yes, really, were a series of chilling images. These photos were taken during the killing, including a famous photo of Travis that was taken right before his murder and a blurry image of him bleeding on the floor. If this was self-defense, why did she take pictures of him actively dying? And for self-defense, he looked pretty harmless in the shower by himself. Combined with her constantly changing and inconsistent stories, these photos destroyed her credibility and sealed her fate, sending her to prison for life.
What are we looking at?
It's a lower view of the victim inside of the shower stall.
The testimony of Linda Kasabian, Charles Manson.
I remember I was standing out in front of the gun room at this one point, and Charlie came up to me and pulled me off the porch. And he told me I needed a change of clothing, a knife, and my driver's license.
In 1970, Linda Kasabian, a former member of the famous Manson family, turned state's witness in exchange for complete immunity. Present during the gruesome Tate LaBianca murders, Kasabian never personally killed anyone, but she did witness it all, resulting in an emotional testimony that lasted an exhausting 18 days. She gave jurors a chilling first-hand account of the murders, describing Manson's control over his followers and how he orchestrated the killings without ever getting his hands dirty. Her credibility was crucial, painting a vivid picture of the family's cult-like obedience to Manson and the leader's unhinged belief systems. Manson was convicted of first-degree murder, despite no physical evidence linking him to the crimes, a fact that was largely based on Kasabian's testimony.
Mrs. Kasabian, the truth is that you made up this whole story, didn't you?
No.
Didn't you?
Nobody could make that. Nobody.
An extravagant spending spree. The Menendez brothers.
Okay, you have to shoot first so that you don't back out. What? Okay.
After brutally murdering their wealthy parents in 1989, brothers Lyle and Eric Menendez went on trial in what was one of the biggest media circuses of the 1990s. They openly admitted to killing their parents, their defense resting on claims of self-defense and years of abuse. Their sudden lavish lifestyle raised eyebrows. In the months following the murders, the brothers went on a jaw-dropping shopping binge, snagging Rolex watches, luxury cars, and even a restaurant. Prosecutors argued that their extravagant spending wasn't just suspicious. It was was motive. The spending painted a picture of cold-blooded killers who just wanted to cash in on their wealthy parents, and combined with some inconsistent alibis, their expensive habits gave the jury exactly what they needed.
Okay, great. I want 2 dozen shrimp cocktails, tails off, and I want a case, not a bottle, a case of Perrier. Do you have Perrier?
The glasses, Leopold and Loeb.
Well, it'll be in the early morning editions. Just another lucky break. How about the glasses?
Glasses? What do you mean? What kind of glasses?
Eyeglasses, you know. The police thought they belonged to the boy, but they looked pretty big to me, so when nobody was around, I tried them on the body.
In May of 1924, wealthy University of Chicago students Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb thought they'd commit the perfect murder, and solely for the thrill of it. But their plan unraveled fast, really fast. Near the body of their victim, Bobby Franks, police found a pair of glasses with a unique hinge. In fact, it was so unique that only 3 people in Chicago had them. One of them, Nathan Leopold. When confronted, Leopold was flabbergasted and made up some bogus story about dropping them while bird watching. No one bought it. And this tiny but crucial detail tied him directly to the murder. The glasses became the smoking gun that shattered their illusion of genius and took them straight to prison.
Well, this is all purely academic if they're not really my glasses, isn't it, sir? I don't know, of course, but I would imagine there must be 1,000 pair of glasses like those right here in Chicago.
The figure is about 4,000, Judd. But these happen to be your glasses. In spite of the fact they look like thousands of others, they aren't.
The smoking gun tape, Richard Nixon's impeachment.
I was advised that there was a possibility of CIA involvement in some way. It was certainly not my intent nor my wish that the investigation of the Watergate break-in or of related acts be impeded in any way.
While not a criminal trial in the traditional sense, Nixon's infamous impeachment process was made possible thanks to the White House tapes. Like, it's literally called the smoking gun tape. How could we not include it? It was discovered during the Watergate investigation that Nixon had installed a secret recording system in the Oval Office, automatically capturing conversations between him and his aides. When Senate investigators demanded the tapes, Nixon refused, citing executive privilege. The tapes were eventually subpoenaed, and one clearly showed Nixon attempting to block the FBI's investigation into the case. Therefore, Nixon was directly implicated in obstructing justice and lost all remaining political support, resulting in his infamous resignation.
Early Senate Republican Whip Griffin of Michigan suggested the president resign.
Where both the national interest and his own interest will best be served by resigning.
The rope hair, the West Memphis Three.
New evidence released today claims testing unavailable in 1993 shows no DNA from the 3 imprisoned defendants was found in the bodies of the murdered boys.
A highly controversial case, the West Memphis Three were convicted of murdering 3 Arkansas boys in 1993, despite a significant lack of evidence. Today, it's remembered as one of the best examples of the satanic panic. In 2007, investigators tested a hair that was found in the rope used to tie one of the victims. It matched none of the West Memphis Three, but Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of one of the victims. Another hair found on a tree stump nearby was consistent with Hobbs's friend David Jacoby. This new DNA evidence greatly undermined the prosecution, and when paired with evidence of jury misconduct and new statements from key witnesses, it helped exonerate the convicted. All 3 were released on Alford pleas in 2011.
And I did not want to take the deal from the get-go. However, they're trying to kill Damien, and sometimes you just got to bite the gun to save somebody.
The voice recordings, Clifford Irving.
Many of you probably didn't know he lived here, but a lot of you will remember the huge scandal he was best known for.
By the 1970s, Howard Hughes was a recluse, and writer Clifford Irving saw an opportunity. He claimed Hughes had asked him to ghostwrite his official autobiography, even producing letters and voice recordings as proof of his correspondence with the famous aviator. Irving planned to publish the book, falsely assuming that Hughes would stay silent. Well, he didn't. Hughes got wind of the news, and in January 1972, shocked the world by holding a telephone press conference. Investigators compared his voice to earlier recordings and confirmed its authenticity. Meanwhile, forensic analysis exposed Irving's recordings as fake, proving beyond doubt that Howard Hughes had never collaborated with him. The hoax unraveled, and Irving was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison.
Do you owe anybody any money at this point?
Yes, I owe a total of about just under $1 million to the IRS, to McGraw-Hill, and to my various attorneys.
Marked bills and fingerprints, Machine Gun Kelly.
We
repeat the message to the abductors of little Cheryl Vito. Your message has been received. We will repeat this every 15 minutes until we receive further instructions.
In 1933, famous gangster Machine Gun Kelly kidnapped oil tycoon Charles F. Urschel and held him ransom at his in-laws' farmhouse for $200,000. After his release, Urschel helped the FBI track his captors by recalling key details, like the presence of mosquitoes and the repeating sound of a nearby oil pump. His meticulous observations led federal agents to Paradise, Texas, and they were even able to pinpoint the exact farmhouse that held Urschel using the sound of the oil pump. Urschel's fingerprints were found at the property, linking Kelly to the crime. To make matters worse, Kelly's accomplice was also caught with some marked ransom bills. With overwhelming proof of his involvement, Kelly was convicted and spent the rest of his life in prison.
You the tough man in the crowd? You got a tough name, Kelly. Why didn't you shoot it out?
Because I knew you'd kill me.
Phone calls to Amber Fry, Scott Peterson.
Amber is a true hero, and she took many risks for justice in this case.
In 2003, the remains of Lacey Peterson were found near San Francisco Bay, a year after her husband Scott reported her missing. Scott was later arrested and sentenced to life in prison for her murder. While the case mostly relied on circumstantial evidence, the most damning proof came from phone calls with his mistress, Amber Fry. Scott told Amber that he was a widower before Lacey was even reported missing. She then worked with police and recorded their calls, during which he repeatedly lied, once claiming to be in Paris while actually attending a vigil for Lacey. He also never once expressed concern for his missing wife.
Yesterday, we told you that Scott Peterson was resentenced to life without parole for the murders of his wife Lacey and their unborn son. Now, his sister is speaking out, saying she couldn't be more pleased.
These deceptive conversations made Scott appear detached and manipulative, significantly swaying public opinion and the jury against him.
I wish he would take just a fraction of pain away and just be honest and, say, you did it.
Fiber evidence. Wayne Williams.
Fibers on the body consistent with what we found on other victims.
The fibers we recovered are green and a very unusual shape. I saw green carpet in Williams' home.
But you don't know if it's a match?
No, sir. There were dog hairs on the victim. I found dog hairs in the suspect's vehicle, and his family owns a dog.
I own a dog, Agent.
While Wayne Williams was officially convicted of murdering 2 men, he remains the prime suspect in the Atlanta murders of the late 70s and early 80s, which resulted in 30 deaths. Many witnesses reported seeing Williams with many of the victims, but the smoking gun came in the form of fiber evidence. Investigators found fibers from Williams' home, clothes, car, and even his dog on many victims, all but linking him to their deaths. Prosecutors used these fibers to link Williams to at least some of the famous killings, and he was ultimately found guilty of murdering 2 men, Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Payne. Perhaps most damning of all, the Atlanta murders stopped once Williams was imprisoned.
From those few thin threads, Peterson would begin to build a case to try to catch a killer.
DNA. Gary Ridgway.
We had reference samples collected from potential suspects in the past. Those reference samples were run. One of them matched that of the evidence from the Green River victims.
The Green River Killer had been active since 1982, and since 1982, police have largely focused on one man, Gary Ridgway. He was the immediate primary suspect and was even arrested in the early 80s, resulting in police taking a cheek swab for DNA analysis. However, they were never able to definitively link Ridgway to any of the murders. It wasn't until 2001 that the case against him was reopened thanks to enormous advances in DNA technology. Investigators were able to test biological evidence left on several victims, and they were a complete match to Ridgway. Ridgway was finally arrested after many decades, and the conclusive DNA evidence helped put him away for life.
We begin tonight with the man who terrorized Washington for years. The Green River Killer pleaded guilty to the murders of dozens of women in King County, leaving several families grieving throughout the state.
Floppy disk metadata. Dennis Rader.
We could tell that it was somehow affiliated with Christ Lutheran Church and the Park City Community Public Library. And then the next thing we looked at was statistics, and it shows here that was last saved by Dennis.
BTK committed one of the all-time dumbest blunders in criminal history, resulting in his infamous downfall. Real name Dennis Rader, BTK killed at least 10 people in the greater Kansas area between 1974 and 1991. In the early 2000s, after a long silence, BTK started communicating with the police and boasting about his unsolved murders. He asked them whether they could trace a floppy disk if he sent one, and they said no. Well, that was a lie, and investigators quickly used metadata embedded within the floppy disk to identify Rader. They also collected DNA from Rader's daughter and found a familial match with DNA taken from one of BTK's victims. The evidence was simply unbeatable, and Rader was given 10 life sentences.
I need to ask, sure, you like it? How do you like it? Because I was trying to catch you.
A very unusual rope, John Joubert.
I had never seen anyone like this. None of the other examiners in the laboratory who deal with ropes on a daily basis over a number of years had ever seen a rope like this.
American serial killer John Joubert was executed in 1996 at the age of 33 for murdering 3 boys. His first victim, Danny Eberly, was found bound with very distinctive multi-strand rope, commonly used in military or industrial settings and not found in everyday hardware stores. It also had a unique twisted pattern that made it easy to identify and trace. FBI profilers suspected that the killer had military experience owing to the precision of the bindings, and a tip eventually led police to Joubert, an Air Force radar technician stationed in Omaha. A search of his belongings uncovered rope identical in composition and structure to that used on Eberly. Forensic analysis later confirmed an exact match, helping secure Joubert's conviction and eventual execution.
I found that they were identical in all respects. Microscopically, instrumentally, chemical tests, there were no differences between the 2 ropes.
Fingerprints, Richard Ramirez.
It is a 1976 Toyota station wagon, orange in color, license number 482RTS.
The Night Stalker terrorized California in the mid-1980s, breaking into homes and murdering at least 14 people. On the night of August 24, 1985, a teenager named James Romero was working on his bike when he saw Ramirez outside his house. Ramirez fled the scene in a panic, but Romero noted his orange Toyota and the car's license plate. Later that night, Ramirez broke into the home of Bill Carnes and Inez Erickson, assaulting Erickson and shooting Carnes. The orange Toyota was later found abandoned in Koreatown, and police were able to lift Ramirez's fingerprints from the rearview mirror. This print definitively linked Ramirez to the vehicle seen fleeing multiple crime scenes, including the most recent attack on Carnes and Erickson.
And they were able to pull a latent fingerprint off the rearview mirror where apparently the suspect had reached up and adjusted it.
Audio recordings, Depp v. Heard. The defamation case between Hollywood actors and former partners Johnny Depp and Amber Heard centered around a 2018 opinion piece published in The Washington Post.
He decided to sue his ex-wife personally over an article she wrote for The Washington Post. And this time, he was taking the fight back home.
In the article, Heard asserted that she had been a victim of domestic violence during their marriage. However, Depp sued her, insisting that he was the one subjected to violence at her hands.
So much of the case was put to the jury as being whether or not Johnny Depp would be the sort of person, or is the sort of person, that would ever lay a finger against another woman.
A crucial moment during the trial was the playing of an audio recording where the couple argued about a past physical altercation that left Depp's finger injured. On the tape, Heard appears to acknowledge hitting Depp and berates him for complaining about it.
But you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
This incriminating tape likely influenced the jury's decision to hold Heard liable for defaming Depp, quote, with actual malice. Terry Sanderson's post-incident travel, Gwyneth Paltrow ski crash trial. In 2023, actress and lifestyle entrepreneur Gwyneth Paltrow faced a civil lawsuit from retired Utah doctor Terry Sanderson.
Oscar-winning actress Gwyneth Paltrow in court being sued, accused of violently crashing into a man during a family ski trip in Park City, Utah.
Sanderson alleged that in 2016, Paltrow collided with him on a ski slope, resulting in permanent traumatic brain injury and severe emotional distress, among other things. Paltrow's legal team challenged Sanderson's claims by presenting evidence of the numerous vacations he took after the supposed incident, as well as social media posts depicting him in good spirits.
You posted a lot on social media?
Relative to other people, it didn't seem like I did. Very little.
All of these pictures are from your personal Facebook after the collision.
Although Sanderson maintained that these trips were part of his recovery, the jury disagreed with him. They ultimately found him responsible for the accident and awarded Paltrow the requested $1 in damages.
I believe she thinks she has the truth. I believe she thinks that. But I know. I absolutely know, and I said I would not bring any falsehoods. I'm going to tell the truth, and I did.
Handwriting analysis, the Lindbergh kidnapping trial. The 1935 trial of Bruno Richard Hauptmann for the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby was one of the first cases hailed as the trial of the century.
Despite the media attention, the police investigation quickly stalled.
Hauptmann had been arrested after a significant portion of the ransom money was traced to him. However, he claimed that the money belonged to a former business partner who owed him a debt.
Recent transactions are dominated by $10 and $20 gold certificates. Gold certificates are discovered in his home and in his pockets.
Perhaps the most damning evidence against Hauptmann was handwriting analysis that seemed to suggest Hauptmann had written the ransom note. During the trial, 8 handwriting experts took to the stand to testify to that. Despite the evidence against him being largely circumstantial, Hauptmann was convicted and sentenced to death.
Hauptmann is found guilty and sentenced to death.
Since then, some have raised doubts about his guilt. A pajama top, the United States versus Jeffrey R. McDonald. In February 1970, U.S. Army Captain Jeffrey R. McDonald reported the murders of his pregnant wife and 2 daughters by 4 intruders.
It was Jeffrey McDonald who made the 911 call. He later claimed his family was attacked by 4 intruders.
Despite evidence implicating McDonald, the Army dismissed the case, but it was later reopened in civilian court. The prosecution focused on McDonald's pajama top, which he claimed to have used as a defense, bearing 48 holes allegedly from an ice pick.
Jeffrey McDonald has always maintained his innocence. Although his case has had more time in court than just about any other criminal case in American history, no new evidence, including DNA, has validated his claim.
However, investigators found the holes too neat to have occurred during motion, suggesting that the cloth was stationary, likely covering his wife's body when the punctures occurred. They demonstrated that if the pajama was folded correctly, the 48 holes could have been made by 21 thrusts, the exact number of wounds on McDonald's wife.
The FBI had also found that there was no evidence of a break-in, and all the weapons in the assault had come from the house.
Consequently, McDonald was convicted of the murders. Video of Gage Grosskreutz holding a gun, the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. The Kyle Rittenhouse case was a highly controversial one that ignited intense political debates. In August 2021, Rittenhouse shot 3 men during a protest against police brutality in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
In court today, jurors for the first time hearing from the man who was shot by Kyle Rittenhouse and survived.
2 of the men died, while the third, Gage Grosskreutz, sustained severe injuries. Rittenhouse argued that he was safeguarding local businesses from violence and only fired in self-defense after the men drew their guns on him. When Grosskreutz took the stand at trial, he was confronted with footage showing him pointing his gun at Rittenhouse.
What was going through your mind? That I was going to die?
Although Grosskreutz admitted to being armed, he insisted that he had no intention of shooting Rittenhouse. Nevertheless, the jury sided with the defendant's self-defense plea and acquitted him of all charges.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Kyle Rittenhouse, trembling with emotion as the court clerk read the jury's verdict.
Incriminating text messages, the Alex Jones defamation trial. For years, Alex Jones spread falsehoods about the tragic Sandy Hook shooting, suggesting that it was staged and accusing victims and their families of being actors. As a result, many affected families sued Jones for defamation and won.
Robert Parker weeps in a Connecticut courtroom after a jury ordered conspiracy theorist Alex Jones to pay him $120 million in damages for repeatedly claiming that the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting was a hoax.
During his deposition, Jones had claimed that he couldn't find any text messages on his phone about the incident. However, at trial, it was revealed that Jones's own lawyers had accidentally sent 2 years' worth of text messages related to Sandy Hook to the lawyer representing one of the victim's parents.
As of 2 days ago, it fell free and clear into my possession, and that is how I know you lied to me when you said you didn't have text messages about Sandy Hook. Did you know that?
Needless to say, this came as a rude shock to him. In the end, Jones was ordered to pay the family nearly $50 million in compensatory and punitive damages.
After a resounding rebuke, the InfoWars host was ordered to pay an additional $45.2 million in punitive damages to the parents of a Sandy Hook shooting victim.
Falsified documents, the United States v. Holmes. Through her company Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes promised to revolutionize blood testing by using just a few drops of blood to detect several ailments.
The goal is to empower the individual. We believe strongly that the future of healthcare is in enabling the individual to have the information that they need to take ownership of their health.
However, these claims were inaccurate, and Holmes attempted to validate them by forging documents to sway investors. Two particular sets of these documents played pivotal roles in her trial. The first, a counterfeit endorsement from pharmaceutical giant Pfizer, falsely suggested that they had endorsed Theranos' technology.
Remember those logos that Elizabeth Holmes admitted she put on pharmaceutical company lab reports and then sent to prospective business partners like Walgreens? It was Pfizer and Schering-Plough. Well, it turns out she did more than just change add the logos.
The second set of documents presented inflated revenue projections of $40 million through purported contracts with drug companies, which were later proven to be bogus. These documents were all the jury needed to convict Holmes of fraud and sentence her to over 11 years in prison.
Today, she entered the minimum security federal women's prison camp located in Bryan, Texas.
Kennel video, the murder trial of Alex Murdaugh. A member of South Carolina's prominent Murdaugh family, Alex Murdaugh became the prime suspect after his wife Maggie and their son Paul were killed in June 2021. For several months, Murdaugh claimed that he was not present when the murders took place.
Murdaugh claimed he didn't go to the family's kennels that night until he found his wife and son's bodies.
But an unexpected source, his own son Paul, unknowingly helped secure a guilty verdict from beyond the grave. Moments before his tragic death, Paul made a video in the family's dog kennel, which captured Murdaugh's voice, thus shattering his supposed alibi.
Prosecutors playing that video for him again in court.
Can you point out Alex Murdaugh, the person whose voice you recognize in this video in this courtroom, please? Sitting right there in the gray jacket.
Prosecutors presented this incriminating footage in court, following which Murdaugh changed his story but still maintained his innocence. However, the jury was already convinced. They deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning a guilty verdict.
I sentence you to prison for murdering him for the rest of your natural life. Those sentences will run consecutive.
Bite marks, Ted Bundy's first murder trial. Throughout the 1970s, Ted Bundy rained terror on women in the U.S., claiming the lives of at least 30 individuals. Although he had killed several victims prior, Bundy's first murder trial was for the 1978 deaths of Margaret Elizabeth Bowman and Lisa Janet Levy, two Florida State University students.
There was no doubt that when he was arrested, he was fearful of what was coming. We had strong belief that he had committed these sorority sister murders.
Before taking her life, Bundy had bitten deeply into Levy's flesh, leaving a very visible bite mark. This would become key physical evidence during his trial. Two forensic odontologists seemingly matched the bite impressions to castings of Bundy's teeth, which they presented to the jury.
Whoever made this mark in the skin, in the flesh, had crooked teeth.
While this evidence was crucial in securing Bundy's conviction, bite mark analysis has since been proven as unreliable and shown to have resulted in several wrongful convictions.
People that were board certified did not agree about what a bite mark was. If a science isn't a science and it's not reproducible and it's not reliable, courts of law should not allow it in.
Bloodied gloves, the people v. O.J. Simpson.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Those were the famous words uttered by Johnny Cochran, one of O.J. Simpson's defense lawyers during his 1995 murder trial. Simpson stood accused of murdering his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. At the crime scene, detectives found a pair of bloodied gloves, which they believed Simpson had worn during the murders.
Your Honor, at this time, the people would ask that Mr. Simpson step forward and try on the glove recovered at Bundy as well as the glove recovered at Rockingham.
Lead prosecutor Marcia Clark rejected the idea of Simpson trying on the gloves in court, but her assistant prosecutor Christopher Darden proceeded with it, anticipating a, quote, big moment. His expectations were dashed, however, when the gloves didn't seem to fit Simpson's hands. The jury later adhered to Cochran's words and infamously acquitted Simpson of the murders.
Back in the courtroom, Simpson smiled, and his attorneys were obviously pleased and relieved. The prosecution team sat stone-faced.
What do you make of this evidence? Let us know in the comments below.
Alex Murdaugh's alibi potentially destroyed by his son's own video.